Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and Kept It Off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitation in your weight loss and your weight maintenance. Today we're going to talk about probably the most depressing of the confessions of an obese child, episodes where I talk about suicidal ideation. Now before we begin, if you need help losing weight, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also in the episode notes you'll see links to my website, my books, and if you appreciate my content, please make a donation via PayPal. At the least, just like the video. All right, so we're near the end of the Confessions of an Obese Child series. And at this point in my life, I'm 280 pounds, size 58 waist, shopping at the big and tall store, being rejected by women. The video on women will come out tomorrow. And all I saw at this time was just negative reinforcement and confirmation of what I thought my entire life, that I was a horrible piece of crap, I was a self-loathing fat piece of crap, and I numbed the pain with the food, which of course just caused me to get fatter, be rejected more by women, being bullied by men. At that point, when I was 16, I didn't see anything changing in the future, and why would I? There's nothing to suggest that anything was going to change in my life. I was going to blink, and 3 years later, I'd be 320, and then 400, 450. There's nothing that made me think that anything was going to change. So naturally, I was depressed. I hated people that bullied me. I hated the women for rejecting me. I was angry at my parents. But ultimately, it was all really should have been directed toward me. I hated myself because I still loved the food more than I loved myself. So I was depressed, I was sad, I turned to God, I prayed and prayed and prayed, please help me lose this weight, please help me, please, please, please. And I entered what I would call the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul, otherwise known as spiritual aridity, is kind of a term you heard of Mother Teresa. Like much of Mother Teresa's life at the end, she couldn't pray. She didn't stop believing in God, but she just didn't hear anything in her prayers, and she went through this dry time, this aridity, and they call it the dark night of the soul. So I went through this dark night of the soul where I was in deep depression. My parents couldn't do anything about it. My brothers didn't know about it. And understandably so. I mean, maybe some of you can relate. You see the future and all you see is more rejection and obesity. I got to a point where I was cutting. This was before it was big to cut. I mean, now it's much bigger, but 1990, 1989, it wasn't big to cut. And I remember a couple times just being in the kitchen at night and just getting the sharp knife and just in the forearm. Why? The same reason why cutters cut. To numb the pain for a little while so they can focus on this pain that they have in the cutting so they don't feel the constant pain of whatever trauma. And then there reached a point where I did think about killing myself. And I thought about like, what's the easiest way? Again, none of this was rational. This is why the church lots of times teaches that those who take their own life, because it's a grave sin to take a gift of life from God, but they understand that most people who take their lives don't really give consent. Right? They're under an amount of depression. Many times they're under the influence of alcohol and drugs. So I thought, okay, well, my mom's got a bunch of pills. I mean, they're abounding in my house along with all of her clothes that she never wears. And so there was a night where I got the pills, and I don't remember what they were, but I remember at the time knowing that if I took a lot of them, I would end up dying. And I think it was a night where my parents were out. I planned it. My brothers were off in college at this point. And I had him in my hand, and I was just too scared to do it. It's not that I didn't do it because I didn't want to kill myself. I was just too much of a coward, which then led to more self-loathing. You're such a coward. You can't even kill yourself. Blah, 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 blah. But I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I don't know why. Maybe it was my guardian angel. I don't know. I couldn't do it. I didn't do it. And that was really, I think, the last time that I really thought about killing myself. And that's not to say, and really, they say it's like before the darkest time of the day. What's the line about at night? before the sun comes, it's always the darkest time. And it was not that soon after that I started to lose the weight. And that's not to say after I lost my weight. There were times where I was very depressed. Very depressed. And we'll talk about this later on this series. I don't know what I'm going to name that series, but the post-weight loss series of things that I went through. The survivor's guilt, the imposter syndromes, all these things. But that's my story. Guys, post in the comments if you can relate, if you had a similar story. I'd love to hear from you. Please hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Share with others. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.